السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله السلام عليك يا ابن رسول الله السلام عليك يا خيرة الله وابن خيرته السلام عليك يا ابن أمير المؤمنين
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم
وابن سيد
الحمد لله رب
الوصيين
العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وآله الطاهرين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to episode number 9 of Reflections on Ziyarat Ashura, brought to you by Mizan Institute. فلعن الله أمة أسست أساس الظلم والجور عليكم أهل البيت ولعن الله أمة دفعتكم عن مقامكم وأزالتكم عن مراتبكم التي رتبكم الله فيها ولعن الله أمة قتلتكم ولعن الله الممهدين لهم بالتمكين من قتالكم برئت إلى الله وإليكم منهم ومن أشياعهم وأتباعهم وأوليائهم. We reach this segment of the ziyarah in which the Imam is sending his la'na upon different groups of people that we'll talk about. There are a few points, inshallah, I want to discuss in regards to this segment. But before getting into the la'an part, the whole thing begins with the letter fa. فَلَعَنَ اللَّهُ. In Arabic, when you use the letter fa between sentences, it shows that there is a connection between them, one being the cause of the other and the other being the outcome of the prior one. So for example, in Arabic you will say جَاءَنِي صَدِيقِي فَأَكْرَمْتُهُ. My friend came and so I hosted him, I honored him, I took care of him. Him coming to me had an outcome, had a result. It resulted in him having a good time with me taking care of him. So this is something that happens all the time in the Arabic language. Now here in the ziyarah, it is linking the la'na and the cursing of different groups of people. It's linking it to what came before. Well, what came before this segment? It was talking about how this was a great musibah, a great tragedy, unbearable upon all of the people of Islam, upon all of the inhabitants of the heavens even. So if it's such a great tragedy, as a result of it being unbearable, being such a horrible thing that took place, being something that should not have taken place, as a result, so فَلَعَنَ اللَّهُ. May Allah curse the ones who, all the way till the end. So that's one point I want to point out here, is that this ziyarah is letting us know that it was such a great thing that it warrants and allows one to send la'na on those who caused it. So this la'na that we say, this cursing that we say, what does it exactly mean? La'an in Arabic, if you look it up in the dictionary, and we've heard this a lot, it means to ask for and to wish for the mercy of God to be kept away from somebody. And of course this will be the result of us disliking that individual. But the question is, do we send la'na on people that we just dislike, or is there more to it? This is a discussion that we'll have later, the love and hate that we have in religion. For now, let's break down this segment. فَلَعَنَ اللَّهُ أُمَّةً أَسَّسَتْ أَسَاسَ الظُّلْمِ وَالْجَوْرِ عَلَيْكُمْ. We have about 4 groups that are mentioned here that had something to do with Ashura. So the greatness, the significance, the tragedy of Ashura allows 4 groups of people to be cursed and la'na be sent upon them. There is one thing to remember though as we go through this. No names are mentioned. But later on in the ziyarah, in other segments and other parts where la'na is sent, you will find that names are mentioned. So the fact that in the ziyarah sometimes names are mentioned, but in other times names are not mentioned, it shows that this is something deliberate on the part of the ziyarah. That the ziyarah wants to keep things general sometimes and also get specific sometimes. So for example, throughout the ziyarah you'll have these names of Ahlu Ziyad, Ahlu Marwan, Ibn Marjana, Umar ibn Sa'ad, Shimr, these people, Yazid. You even have a mention of Muawiyah. So there will be names that are mentioned, and then there will be general la'nas also that are sent. In this segment, it's all general. So there's one group that the Imam is sending his la'na upon. لَعَنَ اللَّهُ أُمَّةً أَسَّسَتْ أَسَاسَ الظُّلْمِ وَالْجَوْرِ عَلَيْكُمْ. If there was anyone out there who established the foundations of oppression to befall the AhlulBayt alayhimus salam, our Imams alayhimus salam, may Allah's la'na be upon them. That's the first group. The second group, وَلَعَنَ اللَّهُ أُمَّةً دَفَعَتْكُمْ عَنْ مَقَامِكُمْ. May Allah's la'na be upon those who got in the way of you reaching those ranks that you were supposed to reach. وَدَفَعَتْكُمْ عَنْ مَقَامِكُمْ وَأَزَالَتْكُمْ عَنْ مَرَاتِبِكُمُ الَّتِي رَتَّبَكُمُ اللَّهُ فِيهَا. And they removed you from that order, that, let's say, hierarchy, that where you were supposed to stand. That order, that hierarchy that you were supposed to be in, that level you were supposed to be at, that Allah had chosen for you. So this is why we can send la'na on individuals who do such a thing. Because they are getting in the way of something that Allah had prescribed. Ratabakumullahu fiha. Allah placed you in a certain position, but then others came and removed you. Okay, so this is a big problem. These people are going against Allah Himself. And so that sanctions the la'na upon them. So we have 1, those who established the foundations. 2, those who removed you, O Ahlul Bayt, from that position that you were at, that ranking that you had in Allah's eyes, and Allah had placed you in. وَلَعَنَ اللَّهُ أُمَّةً قَتَلَتْكُمْ. The third group of people are those who actually killed you directly. They were involved in killing you. And there were some who weren't directly involved in killing you, but they were ones who paved that way. For example, I would say an example of this would be Ubaidullah bin Ziyad. Ubaidullah bin Ziyad didn't draw a sword against Imam Hussein, but he's the one who ordered it. So he is part of that process. But of course, it doesn't end at him. It goes all the way back to those who even established the foundations for any dhulm, any oppression to befall the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. Alright, so this fourth group is referred to as وَلَعَنَ اللَّهُ الْمُمَهِّدِينَ لَهُمْ بِالتَّمْكِينِ مِنْ قِتَالِكُمْ. Those who facilitated this battle of Ashura to take place. Alright, so 4 groups are mal'oon. 4 groups are cursed. 4 groups, the Imam is wishing that Allah's mercy does not reach them. Now, a question will usually come up. That isn't it better, instead of having la'an upon these people, cursing these individuals, isn't it better to ask God to forgive them? Ask God to show mercy to them? This is a question that, comes up here and there. And let's talk about that a little bit. You see, brothers and sisters, sometimes somebody is just a sinner. They commit sins, they make mistakes, they go against what God wants. But their heart is still where it's supposed to be. And they still love the religion, they still love Allah, they still love those that Allah has commanded that we love and follow. Sometimes, no, it's not even about sinning or not sinning. Sometimes this person is an enemy of God straight up. Is a staunch enemy of those that Allah has asked the masses to follow. In other words, this person is an enemy of a representative of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, let's call it. A vicegerent of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Enemy. Not just doesn't follow. No, is an enemy while she knows that they're supposed to follow this person. Okay, this person is going to be mal'oon. For example, in the Quran, تَبَّتْ يَدَا أَبِي لَهَبٍ وَتَبْ مَا أَغْنَى عَنْهُ مَالُهُ وَمَا كَسَبْ سَيَصْلَى نَارًا ذَاتَ لَهَبٍ وَامْرَأَتُهُ حَمَّالَةَ الْحَطَبِ. So, Abu Lahab is an example of this, and his wife. They know who the Prophet is. They know they're supposed to follow him. They go against him. The Quran is speaking of him in this way, that may his hands be cut. This person is going to be in the hellfire, etc., etc. This is what I mean when I say enemies of God. They have made a conscious decision, despite the warnings from God, to willingly choose Jahannam. Well, okay, if they choose damnation and Jahannam, and Allah will give it to them then. The same way some choose Jannah and work for it, and Allah gives it to them. Therefore, these people are doomed anyway. I want us to pay attention to this point. It's a very important point. These people, they have done what it takes to be doomed and damned anyway. And Allah will be punishing them anyway. So when we are sending la'an upon them, two things. One, we are aligning our will with Allah's will. Allah has now willed Jahannam for these people because they willed it for themselves. If Allah wants Jahannam for these people now, then we are also letting Allah know, oh Allah, we also want Jahannam for them because you want Jahannam for them, because they themselves wanted it for themselves. They are proper enemies of God. So we have to understand, it's just not talking about just someone who's committed certain sins in life. It's more than that. This person has made that conscious decision, knowingly, willingly, knowing that they, with the decision that they make, with what they're going to do, they're going to end up in Jahannam forever. So for example, like, what's his name? Umar ibn Sa'ad. Umar ibn Sa'ad, he says this in history. It's been recorded that he said, I see myself between Jannah and Jahannam. I have to make a choice. If I choose to kill Imam Hussein, that equals Jahannam. This person himself is acknowledging it. He's choosing Jahannam for himself. And so Allah will give him Jahannam. And if Allah is going to give him Jahannam, we are also going to ask for Jahannam for him because we are aligning our will with Allah's will. That's one point. Another point is, these enemies of God, when we choose to have tabarri towards them, baraa'ah towards them, as the ziyarah says, bari'tu ilallahi wa ilaykum minhum wa min ashya'ihim wa atba'ihim wa awliyaihim, that, oh Allah, I am disassociating myself. I show my disgust and hate towards these people. I disassociate myself from them and all of their followers, atba'ihim, ashya'ihim, awliyaihim, whoever was their friends. I am disassociating myself from all of them. This is also going to help me try to stay away from them and not live a life that they lived, so that I secure my own akhirah. So this idea of asking for mercy for a person that Allah cannot even show mercy towards, because Allah is not going to force mercy onto people. The whole point of us being created was for us to willingly, through our choice and free will, decide between truth and falsehood when we know one will lead to Jannah, the other will lead to Jahannam. That was the whole point of us coming here. And then Allah is going to say, okay, a person who has chosen Jahannam, I'm going to still give them Jannah. It doesn't make sense. It defeats the whole purpose of creation. If we know that there's still hope for a person who chooses the path of zero hope for their guidance, zero hope for them ending up in Jannah, it just doesn't make sense. And so, for example, take Surah Tawbah verse 80. It shows us that there are some people that there is absolutely no hope for them because they themselves have chosen that. And so we don't need to waste our time trying to, invoke Allah's mercy upon them or something. It says, whether you plead forgiveness for them or do not plead forgiveness for them. Now this is the Quran speaking to the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, not just anybody that is going to ask for forgiveness for certain people. No, O Prophet, even if, whether you plead forgiveness for them or do not plead forgiveness for them, even if you plead forgiveness for them 70 times, Allah shall never forgive them. So someone might say, but that sounds mean. Why is that? Isn't Allah all merciful? Isn't Allah more loving than a mother towards her child, etc.? Yeah, that's true. That is 100% true. But we cannot forget the point of creation either. If a person has been created for guidance and to be able to choose that guidance but turns away from it willingly, voluntarily, then Allah's not going to come here and say, okay, you know what, I'm going to just go against the whole purpose of creating you and still take you to Jannah. That was the whole point, for you to choose Jannah and build your own Jannah through your actions and beliefs, through your proper actions and proper beliefs. And so it is a result of your own choosing and your own choice. So it says, Allah shall never forgive them. Why? Because they defied Allah and His Apostle. And Allah does not guide the transgressing lot. The ones who choose to transgress, all right, then they've chosen transgression. It's cause and effect. I choose transgression, Allah gives me transgression. Or misguidance. Allah gives me misguidance. It's cause and effect. Just like how you drop an apple, it falls because of gravitational pull. When I do certain things and I embrace certain beliefs and I turn away from the truth on purpose, that's the cause. The effect will be misguidance. I've chosen it for myself. So there's no point in asking for asking for guidance for this person. This person, there's no way. And this is why the Quran says, خَتَمَ اللَّهُ عَلَىٰ قَلْبِهِمْ وَعَلَىٰ أَبْصَارِهِمْ غِشَاوَةٌ خَتَمَ اللَّهُ عَلَىٰ قُلُوبِهِمْ وَعَلَىٰ سَمْعِهِمْ وَعَلَىٰ أَبْصَارِهِمْ غِشَاوَةٌ. Allah has sealed their hearts, their ears, and upon their eyes is a veil. Why? Because they themselves wanted that. They themselves did something to deserve that. As much as there is hope, Allah will still, leave some leeway. But sometimes you're just done. It's over. You have become an enemy of God. That's when Allah will say, okay, here you go. This is what you want. Okay, I'll seal your heart because you're sealing your heart. And so there's no room for loving these individuals anymore, these enemies of God. And that's why we have this famous hadith. It's in Usul al-Kafi. هَلَ الدِّينِ إِلَّا الْحُبْ وَالْبُغْض. That is religion anything but love and hate? You can't only love in the religion of God. When there are people who hate God, they hate His apostle, they go against them, they kill them, spill their blood, oppress them, torture them. What kind of love? I mean, even in our everyday lives, this doesn't make sense. How can I love somebody who is hurting everybody that I love? Yes, at the end of the day, I would wish the best for them and I would wish for them to turn back. But then it reaches a point where, okay, this person just took my brother's life. Okay, do I still love this person? It just doesn't make sense. Yes, in the grander scheme of things, Allah always loves His creation. That's for sure. But as I said, our actions will reach a point where we have sealed our own hearts, and Allah will say, okay then, if you're sealing your heart, here you go, let me seal it for you. Yeah, so this is where this idea of tawalli and tabarri comes. To have wilaya with somebody, wilaya of somebody, but at the same time to have baraa'ah of others. You cannot have wilaya of those who Allah has said to have wilaya of, but at the same time have wilaya of those who are against the ones that Allah has said that we should embrace their wilaya. It just doesn't add up. We seek refuge in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to reach a point where there is no turning back. Now, these individuals who, in one way or another, they were behind Ashura. They were behind the killing of Imam Hussein, the way he was killed. These people, what's for sure is there's no turning back. As I've said in previous episodes, Karbala isn't one of those incidents where, there's a lot of gray area. You're not sure. No. Karbala is the embodiment of haqq versus batil. You can't be on the side of batil and get away with it here. Everything is just too clear. If you are on the side of batil, if your heart is with the batil on Ashura, that means you are an enemy of God. That means you're an enemy of AhlulBayt alayhimus salam. You are an enemy of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi. And as a result, you deserve the la'na of Allah and the la'na of the la'aneen. Walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين